Hi, Roy here, Yard of Random Books channel, and going to talk about the Tales of the Weird series from the British Library. So now there are 33 of them. Thought it'd be a good time to have a kind of overview of what's in the series, and it's so varied. There's lots of different things in there, so taking a bit of a dive into that. 33 books so far. They keep coming. My house isn't getting any bigger, but they keep on coming. It's a collection of short story anthologies in the uncanny, strange, supernatural area, in the kind of classic era, 19th century through to usually mid 20th century. And they all come with introductory sections which give you an insight and, a kind of thoughtful guide into what it is you're about to read. And they're all very beautiful, physically very beautiful. I talked in an earlier video about how the designs and the printing process give these very striking covers. Won't go over all that again. I will extremely briefly talk about shelving options. So this is going to be very quick, and I will probably disappear like somebody being walled up in an uncanny story, disappear behind a stack of photographs. So different ways to shelve them. You could put them on the shelf chronologically from the first one that appeared to the most recent one. I think that goes from the depths to spectral sounds. Not sure why you'd want to do that unless you had maybe some personal memories from a particular moment when a particular book came out. You could also shelve them alphabetically by author or editor, which is fine, except the editor names don't appear on the spine, so maybe not super user friendly. You could use the titles and go alphabetical by title, which is nice and simple. That's probably what I'll actually do in real life. And you can slot the new ones in where they appear. And you get a nice kind of alternation of colours. Another option, talking of colours, would be the rainbow. I know some people like to make rainbow shelves with all sorts of disparate books. These form a nice rainbow, although there's at least one, possibly two metallic ink colours that don't seem to fit in the rainbow. So a bit of a head scratcher there. There's also enough of them now to start doing repeating rainbows with sort of one book per colour, but then you're left like, I need another orange. So maybe not the best way, but fun to play with. Finally, you could try and be clever and use the Dewey Decimal System. World. Kind of cool as these come from the British Library. It's a bit like going to a distillery and getting whiskey from the cask. These should be the ultimate in classifications. And I actually think the grouping them by subject, perhaps not to the extent of using those numbers, is an interesting thing to do. And that's how I'm going to talk about them, as a way to give a bit of an intro into what's in the whole series. So one section, and the biggest section, is single author collections. So we've got 9 of these so far. Just go through who we've got. They tend to be authors who, to a greater or lesser extent, are not so well known now. So A Phantom Lover and Other Tales by Vernon Lee. Randall's Round, 9 Nightmares by Eleanor Scott. The Outcast and Other Tales by E.F. Benson. Good example of a author who is quite well known, but not so much for their supernatural work. So E.F. Benson's Map and Lucia stories, perhaps better known than Uncanny stuff. The Weird Tales of William Hope Hodgson. I never set out to make Hodgson my most collected author, but I must have versions of his books, probably more than any other writer for some reason. I Am Stone, the Gothic Weird Tales of R. Murray Gilchrist. So this is a good example of how I just didn't know this author at all. Read the introduction by Daniel Peterson, read the first story, and it's like, how is this not a super well-known weird fantasy story? It's absolutely amazing. So looking forward to reading more of those. 2 novels by Charlotte Riddell. So these are probably the longest pieces. Haunted Houses is the overall title. An Algernon Blackwood collection, probably one of the better known dudes here, but it's 4 weird novellas by Algernon Blackwood. So that's kind of nice because, for obvious reasons, shorter pieces tend to appear more frequently in anthologies. So getting these long form stories is really good. Shadows on the Wall, Dark Tales by Mary E. Wilkins Freeman, and finally The Face in the Glass, the Gothic tales of Mary Elizabeth Braddon, who used to be an absolute writing superstar, a real household name. Press notices for her work would just say, you know, new play by Miss Braddon, and everyone would know what it meant, known as the Queen of the Circulating Libraries. So an incredibly famous author, and my spidey sense is telling me I'll probably be reading a lot of her. This is a great place to start with her Gothic work. Okay, so single authors we get. Also, another group is what I would call exploring the genre. So collections that take a particular type of story, such as Doorway to Dilemma, bewildering tales of dark fantasy. The Ghost Slayers, thrilling tales of occult detection. Good place to start with occult detectives. Sort of goes through the sequence of those kind of detective stories pretty much chronologically. There are several anthologies like this, and this is a good one. Some authors and characters will appear in all of them, really, or very frequently, but there's always a few obscure ones. So I've read a lot of occult detective stuff, and about half this book it's new stuff to me. So fantastic. Queens of the Abyss, great cover. Lost Stories from the Women of the Weird, and Glimpses of the Unknown, Lost Ghost Stories. So we're getting a sort of different kind of experience. So with the single authors, we're taking a deep dive into a particular person's work. Now we're getting types of story, typically being rescued from obscurity. But the rest and the majority are on themes. So, and they're not vampires, werewolves, that kind of thing. They're always a bit more unexpected than that. So another theme would be nature and natural phenomena. So trying to look at these in ascending order of size. Crawling horror, creeping tales of the insect weird, evil roots, killer tales of the botanical Gothic. Really interesting area. It's so creepy when living things are crossing those kind of not just species boundaries, but into the realms of fungus or whatever. I find it creepy anyway. Weird Woods, Tales from the Haunted Forests of Britain. So this is kind of, they're also location based, so we'll come back to that. From the Depths and Other Strange Tales of the Sea. And biggest of all, Heavy Weather, Tempestuous Tales of Stranger Climes. So nature-based stuff. That sort of edges into some other location-based ones. So locations such as London, Into the London Fog, Eerie Tales from the Weird City. I'll just say I really enjoyed that one. Cornish Horrors, Tales from the Land's End. So another great collection, edited by Dr. Joan Passy. And Our Haunted Shores, Tales from the Coasts of the British Isles. So some are based on place or types of place. Moving from those into what you could call the STEM subjects, we get more your sort of science and technology source of disturbing fiction. Promethean Horrors, classic tales of mad science. The Platform Edge, Uncanny Tales of the Railways. One of those things, there's a few famous stories set around railways. I wouldn't have thought there was a whole book full, but there are. Really good. The Night Wire and Other Tales of Weird Media. And yes, maths is there. Dangerous Dimensions. Mind-bending tales of the mathematical weird. So all sorts of aspects of reality seem to be sources of uncanny stories, which is awesome. Another set is perhaps a bit looser, where some kind of supernatural or uncanny figure, person, or type of haunting thing is the theme. The Horned God, Weird Tales of the Great God Pan, as per previous video. Tales of the Tattooed, an anthology of ink. I'm kind of surprised they're not more that are kind of based on some aspect of the body, given what horror tends to be about. The new one, Spectral Sounds, Unquiet Tales. I've just realised the pun of that. Unquiet Tales of the Acoustic Weird. And I'll be coming back to this with a full review when I finished reading it. Minor Hauntings is Chilling Tales of Spectral Youth. Another one of those always creepy things. And then Death itself gets a look in with Mortal Echoes, Encounters with the End. Which is surprising in a way that death itself, maybe doesn't get more prominence in these kind of stories, given that horror and ghosts is all about death, and here is death itself taking centre stage. Finally, nearly there are not one, not two, but three seasonal festive collections. Chill Tidings, Dark Tales of the Christmas Season. Sunless Solstice, Strange Christmas Tales for the Longest Nights, and Spirits of the Season, Christmas Hauntings. I guess these are kind of a surefire winner. Last year did some reading aloud from these, and they could publish these every year as far as I'm concerned. Maybe like Hallmark movies, they could expand into other seasons as well. That would be good. So yeah, seasonal collection. That's the lot. Like I say, they are very reliable in terms of having interesting introductions, authors that are not just the same old, some unexpected finds, and great quality of stories. I don't think there's any one I've read that I haven't found something where I've thought I really want to read more from that writer, and also some new approaches to what seem like well-worn themes, and yet when you get into them, it's like, oh wow, this is what's going on in this story. So there you go, Tales of the Weird. I'm going to carry on buying them till my house explodes with the pressure of excess books, and sure, I'll carry on enjoying them along the way. Cheers everybody.